In the early 2000s, when the FCC and the NAB came together to decide that the transition to digital television was the next step for all the TV stations, KMOS-TV found themselves in a situation where they had to conform to the newest standards. They had to take their first step.
So KMOS was one of all the stations who had to figure out where we were going to be placed. We couldn't just switch over, get a new machine, new transmitter, and be channel 6 all over the place, because all the other stations around the area had to become different channels too. So once we figured out that we were going to be channel 15, then we got to work with a consultant and figured out how best to keep our coverage signal area intact when we go to a higher channel, because that would take more power to replicate the same coverage area.
In my very, very early years here, as a student, I was a student at the time, in Master Control at the time. They were beginning the transition from analog to digital broadcast. And then over the years, I worked on several projects before I became a staff member, always in the engineering to go from analog to digital. There was always a myriad of equipment that was actually just being converted from analog to digital, so they could still operate the way that they had. KMOS could operate the way that it always had in the past, but it would be passed through as a digital signal. And then, of course, there was the transition from tape to a digital medium, and I was heavily involved in that. That came after 2008. Most other stations had begun the transition long before that.
And the transition followed. Once we got the tower up, then we could move a transmitter, put the transmitter in, move our existing signal, channel 6 signal, over to it, and keep broadcasting until the 2009 cutoff for the actual digital transition.
Utilizing a spot server, they continued to move forward.
And KMOS was in some ways ahead of the curve in the fact that they had developed a spot server in the early 2000s, and they were still using that in 2008 when I got here, and that was how they would play breaks, as they would schedule. They would record the promos into a server, and they would schedule the log to play the breaks out of the server, and then they would still play off of satellite or off of tape for the longer format programming. And then in 2010, we transitioned to an Omnion file server, which Omnion later became Harmonic, and that was an industry standard. And that was a game changer.
KMOS found a path to success in the form of some new equipment from a sister station in Michigan at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. The only problem? They had to bid for it.
Correct. The university there, I think, was selling off its equipment for whatever reason, and they put it out for bid to all the PBS, or to all the stations, and the only people, or the only entities that could bid on it were also entities that had received public television funding, PTFP grants. So we were a PTFP grantee, and we thought, well, what the heck, we'll shoot out a bid.
The university put it out for bid, and our president at the time, Dr. Aaron Podolevsky, gave KMOS $100,000 to bid on it. And this is, $1 million worth of equipment. And so our general manager at the time bid $50,000 for the equipment. And we didn't hear anything back. And so that put in another bid for $62,000. And the next day we received an email that was like, your bid of $50,000 has been accepted. And we were all like, oh, yay. Nobody said anything about $62,000. Yay. And so we bought $1 million worth of equipment for $50,000.
With the winning bid, KMOS made a huge leap forward in technology. This provided them the means to meet the standard set by the FCC and the NAB. This transition, however, wouldn't stop there, and KMOS would have to continue on this path to find more success in the future.